will direct you on reporting on other areas of your gold mine. So without further ado, Rob, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Carnegie. I'm not feeling lovable today, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so thanks everybody for joining us on the Mastermind End Users Monthly Webinar. Today, what I'm going to go into here is we've talked a lot about functionality relating to the main contact level of information in GoldMine and activities. Those are the ones that I really focus on a lot because, in part because those are obviously the most commonly used parts of GoldMine, the ones really that everybody pretty much has to use if they use GoldMine. And today, what we're going to sort of move on to a little bit is the parts of GoldMine that are really what you might call the enhanced parts, or the parts where, if you're using GoldMine, especially if you've got GoldMine sort of at the center of the organization, and your sales activity runs through it, and your customer service activity runs through it, and so on. These are the areas of GoldMine that you really start getting into. And I want to go ahead and switch to our agenda page here. That will make this a little easier to visualize. So this is the agenda today. What we're really going to focus on is the opportunities, projects, and cases. But I want to sort of lead you through what the agenda is going to be, and then we'll go ahead with it. That others part down there is actually other things that we will handle at a different time if there is interest, and I'll come back to it here in a moment. So to start with, we'll talk about using Mastermind to report against these other areas. So I'll go into the Create dialog and show you how to make sure that you've really got access to that, and how to use the templates and so on. We'll start with the setup and preferences. Just to make sure that everybody's on the same page as far as how we start off with this. And then I'll go into specific examples. An opportunities example where we'll do an opportunities forecast report, a projects example where we're looking at the tasks which are contained within projects. And I'll talk about this relationship really between the main activity, which you might say would be the project itself, and then the sort of subsidiary parts of that activity. Could be tasks, could be influencers, the history or pending that relates to it. There's really quite a few different parts that can potentially relate to the main activity. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll talk about about working with cases. And my example on that one is going to be a resolutions. Actually, I sort of decided at the last minute, I don't think I'm going to do a resolutions report. I'm going to do a report that's more about open or non-resolved cases. But everything that I do, of course, by analogy, works for all the rest of these parts of GoldMine. The others list there, these are ones that I put them here just because they do fit into the category of other areas in GoldMine that you would logically want to do reporting from with Mastermind. And the details part of it is a subject all unto itself. We're going to do a whole session on doing reporting with profiles. That, of course, is the one-to-many, but also contact level information that is probably, I would say, of all of the quote other parts of GoldMine that people use, that's the most common one that people use, because there are just lots of good reasons to keep data there, and we'll talk about why to do that next time or another time. I think it's next time, and of course the reporting on it. And then the other things like the lookups that are in GoldMine. The last three of them really have more to do with GoldMine administration kinds of things. Setting up and managing all of your lookups for all of your fields. Mastermind actually has tools that make it a lot easier to do that kind of thing. Usage data, people often want to know, well, I want a report of all the people, of when everybody has logged in, how many hours and minutes have they been logged in from day to day. You can also track in GoldMine key clicks and mouse clicks and so on, and that's sometimes useful, again, from sort of a broad administrative perspective. And then GoldSync. For those who still do synchronizing of GoldMine with remote users, there's of course good information in GoldMine that's stored, and Mastermind has ways, has templates for doing reporting against that as well. So as I said, those things that are under others, those will be held for later presentations. We're going to focus on opportunities, projects, and cases. So let's dive right in and go over to that screen. And did I get the wrong one? Yes, I did. Sorry about that. Let's bring up this one. Okay, so this is our famous demo database here in Mastermind, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring up the Mastermind Create dialog and talk a little bit about creating reports from scratch against these important additional areas of GoldMine. Let's start actually by, again, sort of getting us all on the same page regarding what opportunities, projects, and cases are. These are, of course, tabs here in GoldMine. If these tabs don't show up for you, it's just a matter of turning them on. And they are sometimes called modules within GoldMine. They call them modules mainly because you can sort of turn them on and off, and if you have them off, you may not even know that they're there. But for the most part, opportunities I'm going to define as being the part of GoldMine that really handles a more complex sale than a simple sort of one salesperson, one buyer, one product kind of situation. If you have the kind of product or service that you sell that involves multiple users selling, or multiple products in a package that are likely to be sold, or a sale that's just not a very simple sale where you want to track through the stages of the sale, opportunities gets to be a better way to track that in GoldMine, and when I say track it, it's not just for reporting purposes, but to track it in the sense of having an embodiment of the reality of the sale there in GoldMine, where at any moment you're able to turn to the appropriate opportunity record in the GoldMine database and see what's going on with them, one by one. Then, of course, there is the reporting layer that does allow you with Mastermind to sort out all those opportunities, let's say by stage, or by stage with relation to certain sales reps or certain products and so on. I mean, there's just so much more richer information that's available there. In a lot of cases, if you're not getting enough information from just using scheduled or pending sales to track your forecast, then opportunities is the next step up to do that with. Okay, so that's opportunities. Projects, typically the thinking here is opportunities are pre-sale, projects are post-sale. So if you have a certain number of opportunities and you actually close one among those, that one might become then a project, and the assumption with projects is typically they have a start and a finish, and a series of subsidiary tasks that are part of it. We're actually going to look at a report that follows tasks. Projects, I would say opportunities are used fairly often among GoldMine using organizations, probably not as many as you would think, especially if you use them yourselves. Opportunities are the most common of these three special types that are used. Projects, somewhat less so. It's not a fully articulated project manager as some organizations need, and so some organizations will actually just use a whole different product, either Microsoft product or just some other project management software, and then they'll require some kind of a bridge between GoldMine and that product, or even more commonly, they just separate the two and manually start up the project in their other software, rather than having a software bridge between the two. So that's opportunities, that's projects, and then cases, that is typically customer service after someone has already become a long-term customer, or even might be still a prospect, but in any case needs to have customer service provided for them in some kind of an orderly way so that they can create service tickets, or so that you actually internally can create service tickets, follow through those service tickets all the way until there is a resolution, and just make sure that your whole customer service side operates smoothly. So that's sort of just a quick thumbnail definition, really, of opportunities, projects, and cases. I'm assuming you're on this call because these are areas that are of interest to you. Let's talk a little bit about how Mastermind addresses those for reporting purposes. Now, I've pulled up the Create dialog here in Mastermind, and as you'll notice over here on the left-hand side, we do have opportunities showing. We don't have projects and cases turned on. It's pretty similar to the GoldMine side. If you're using projects, opportunities, and cases, you know, on GoldMine, you'd turn them on so people could see them. Otherwise, you have them turned off. Mastermind, it's kind of the same way. We typically start off with a view something like this. When you go to install Mastermind, when you installed it originally, especially if we did a demo for you, we probably asked you, do you use opportunities? If you said yes, excuse me. If you said yes during the install, we checked on a box, and that made this item appear here. This is actually a preference inside of Mastermind. So if you go to the preferences in in Mastermind, and you go to the Toolkits tab, here's where you define which of these areas of GoldMine, which of these are going to show up over in the list. There's really only 3 to choose from. There are 2 flavors of opportunity reporting, 2 flavors of projects, and 1 of service or cases. The reason for these different flavors here is that in earlier versions of GoldMine, it was possible to have opportunities that were just sort of free-floating, that were not linked to any particular context. I'm not sure if that's still possible in GoldMine. I'd have to ask somebody. Almost always, I'd say in 90% of the cases at least of what I see, the an opportunity always exists in a tab under a particular contact, and they are explicitly linked to each other. Which isn't to say that people don't have programs that or ways of working with it that divorce them to actually have sort of free-floating opportunities that aren't in contacts. That is, you know, that gets down into the nitty-gritty of how individual companies sort of view their own structure of their own sale. But typically, if you're using opportunities, you'll use this top one here, opportunities linked to contacts. Likewise, with projects, you would use this one, and with if you're going to do cases, you're going to use this one. Now, there is, I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to hit the Save and Close button. I noticed this morning that there's actually a bug in Mastermind that when I hit this, this is now in the current version 7. In version 8, this has already been fixed. But in version 7, which is the one that is out there that everybody has, version 8 is coming out in about 2 months. Those are on version 7. You will have this issue that when you go to change that preference, you might well wind up with a situation where you can't click, or if you click on the Mastermind Create dialog, you get this switch to and retry, and there's just nothing you can do. It's just you're kind of stuck there. This is obviously not the preferred way for this to go. It's just stuck there. There's not anything I can do about it. I'm going to show you quickly the solution to that, which is to go to your task manager and basically kill both Mastermind, which I'll do here, and the Excel process that goes with it. And that actually, and I hate to have that be the fix for something, but that's where we are with version 7, because we've closed development on that. The change, though, did get made. So I'm going to go ahead and run the Create dialog again, and you'll see that we have successfully, hopefully you'll see this, we've turned on all 3 of those areas for reporting: opportunities, projects, and cases. Okay, so with that setup part of it, let's get down into the actual reporting against that kind of information in GoldMine. So I'm going to start with opportunities, and as I mentioned, we're going to focus in on the opportunities forecast report. But note that when I choose opportunities here, of course, there are actually quite a few templates built into Mastermind for doing the reporting against opportunities. These are all ones that many of them just relate to specific specific tabs within the opportunity itself. So I'm going to be doing a lot of switching back and forth between Mastermind and GoldMine itself. So you're looking at so we can sort of see the apples to apples view here. I want to actually go to a report that has, or a record that has an opportunity, and let's hope that doesn't take me too long to find one here. Okay, I'll go to one that I know has it. Okay, so this one has an opportunity under it. I'm going to go ahead and open up this opportunity so we can talk about the parts of it. Now, this is a bit of a surprise because I'm not seeing the tabs under the opportunity. I don't think going to, oh, okay, going to another one does show, oh, okay, so I just chose an opportunity there. So inside the opportunity here, this is the tabs is what I wanted to point out. So influencers is just one tab within this opportunity. So everybody who's involved with this particular opportunity, these could be people within the organization, or more likely it's people on the other side. They can all be listed here. The team tab actually usually is the one that lists our internal team that's working on this opportunity. I won't go through each of these tabs, but my point is just to say all of these tabs have subsidiary records to the main opportunity, and therefore in Mastermind we present those as reports that center upon just that tab level of information. So, and these are alphabetical here, so they're not going to show up quite like this, but opportunity influencers would be a report that really centers on influencers, influencers of opportunities. So to be in this report, you have to actually be an opportunity influencer, and this report would include all the things that are associated with that. The influencer themselves, the opportunity that goes with it, the contact records, the contact fields that go with the opportunity, and the fourth one would be the user-defined fields at the contact level that also relate to it. So if I were to choose opportunity influencers, you would actually see down here in the list OM, which is actually let me move over to the left here. So OC is the reference to the entity, which is the influencer itself. OM is the opportunity that is that relates to those influencers, and so these are all fields from the opportunity level that are going to relate in this report. And then farther over here, we've got the C1. That's the contact related to the opportunity related to the influencer. And then finally, all the way over here to the right, the C2 fields, the user-defined fields that chain in with the rest of that. So that is a sort of a quick kind of whirlwind tour of the different parts that go into these kinds of reports. As I said, there are reports here that center upon each of the different tabs. There are also reports that just run at the opportunity level itself. In other words, if you choose opportunities up here, you're not going to see the influencers, the products and services, the tasks, all that stuff. That's not going to be available here in just a regular opportunities report. Here, you're just reporting on pretty much the information that's at the top of the opportunity screen here, plus the contact information that's related to it. And so that's, in a way, kind of a special case, but in a lot of ways, that's what people want initially is just to say, I just want a report of the opportunity level. I want one row. In other words, if you think about it in terms of like drilling down from or the detail that you're planning to display, you'd be talking about one row per opportunity. Where if you were talking about influencers, for example, you'd be looking at one row per influencer. So if you had 5 influencers, that opportunity would show up 5 times in that report, one for each influencer. And I'll point out a couple of these other ones. Opportunities with pending in history, opportunities with sales activity. These are all really opportunity record data plus what's on the actual pending in history tab. So relating to the CAL, if you more technically minded, relating to the CAL table and the CONT-HIST table. Both of those do that. Both of those allow you to sort of pull that information all joined together and do whatever the appropriate report is that you want to do out of that. Completed activities is the third example of those ones that include opportunity level plus the pending and history activity. So I said I was going to start with opportunity forecast, so that's the one I want to do as an example here. So this is going to be a report that really focuses on these numbers up here, the dollar amounts for the sales, the potential dollar amounts for the sales, the probability. It can be ordered by the date the opportunities entered the database, or the date the opportunities are scheduled to close by, the date they actually close. Could be any of that. That's why this is a powerful and useful report, even though at this level it's not including information from the tabs. I'll go ahead and generate this one. Oh, and I'm going to pause here for just a moment for a poll. Before I open up this report, just want to put up this poll and ask you, the attendees. I'm going to go ahead and launch this one, bring it up for you. So if you're on, go ahead and click. The question is, which are the areas in GoldMine that you actually use? And if it's none of these, then go with none of the above. What I want to know is, in fact, I sort of started to say it. Most people tend to use opportunities, and it's sort of looking like that's probably how this is going to shape up here as well. Most people who use GoldMine thoroughly, the first area they use after the contact level and the pending and history is details. Second area is probably opportunities, and then much lower on projects and cases usually. Most of the people who are attending have voted. I'd ask for those of you who are still there, go ahead and we've just got a few more probably to put it in. I'm going to go ahead and close it anyway because we've got the vast majority here. So I'll close this one and give you a chance to sort of see how that shook out. Probably not a big surprise here. Let me see if I can see. Oh, there it is. Okay. Where'd my poll go? Oh, there we go. Now I can share the results with you there. Okay, so as expected, now this is a webinar where we in particular invited people who are interested in opportunities, projects, and so on. So 75% of you say you actually use opportunities. I'm pretty amazed, but of course it's a self-selecting group. You are more active users of, by definition, because you use Mastermind, you're more active users of GoldMine than most, and of course since you came to this one. A good number of them, a third actually said they use projects, a third said they use cases, and well over half actually use details. So these are all the different areas, I guess, have applicability to you all, in particular opportunities and the details. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch that off. Let's go to the actual opportunity forecast report that we generated here a moment ago. And what we'll see coming up here is, again, this is always just the starting point. I always encourage people to remember, when you create Mastermind reports, the first thing you see when you get over into Excel is not the end point, it's the starting point. It's still hopefully a useful report. This is a flat-out alphabetical listing by opportunity name of all the opportunities in this database, where we see in the columns going across the number of opportunities. In this case, there's one for each. There's a 1 for each opportunity that's in there. The number of units that represent sales units, the dollar forecast, the full amount of the forecast, the probability, which in this case this is the individual probability for each one of these. But if we start rearranging this, that will aggregate down to where you're seeing, sort of an aggregated or a combined probability of multiple sales. And then this is probable amount, which is the probability times the amount of the sale times the forecast. So that, of course, is just the starting point. Let's go through and talk about a few variations in here, and then we'll quickly come back and look at our projects example and our cases example. So where, of course, I always like to do is start by cloning from the original so that we can get back to our starting point again if we wanted to. In this case, a pretty standard and obvious thing to do would be to aggregate these in some interesting way. So for example, rather than show this each individual opportunity, maybe what we want to do is bring up the ones that are, let's say by source, by lead source. Now this groups them, just dragging op source in here groups them so that all the ones that actually have no source in them, there are 3 of those, and one that where the source of the lead was Chicago Tribune and so on. But where this really gets interesting is if we roll these all up. So I'm selecting source here, I'm going to our MM Tools button, and I'm going to roll up by the source. Now I left the individual names of the opportunities in there so that we can still roll down and see the detail if we want to. But by rolling up on this second field, or it's really the first field in the row area now because I moved it to the left, by rolling up on that I can see a fairly good summary of our outstanding, these are all of the opportunities that are in here. Probably makes sense for me to specify, well, I just want the ones that are open, or I just want the ones that are won or lost, or whatever it's going to be. But so now I know it's my outstanding opportunities that by source, by lead source. Could just as easily have done that by sales rep, by the manager of it, by, you name whatever the logical ways that you want to see that. But now we're aggregating. Now we see there's a certain number of opportunities. They represent a certain number of units, and some people use units, some don't. If you don't use the units, very simple to right-click on here and just remove that column. So any column that's in your data area, of course, can be removed by right-clicking on the field and just choosing to remove it. I'm going to leave the rest of these in here for a moment. So in aggregate, all of our sales that let's say were sourced by a magazine ad. There are 4 of them. They total $65,000, just short of that. Their total probability of sales, because a lot of them must have let's see, 290. Trying to think what that 290 might mean. Actually, I think that's 2.9 probably. I think we've got a misplaced decimal there. I'm going to roll that down here for a moment. Yes, yep. We've got a misplaced demo. What we're saying here is that out of those 4 sales, our probability suggests we'll get 2.9 of those sales, and obviously this is meant to be sort of have statistical meaning. You're either going to get 2 sales or 3 sales. You're not going to get 2.9 sales. But this is a way of just planning, especially in large aggregate numbers. And then this is applying all that probability to the dollars to indicate this is what we're sort of predicting is the approximate amount of dollars we expect to get from those aggregate sales. So that's the meaning of that. Again, we have the ability, as I mentioned before, as I sort of just went to, of rolling this down so I can see the detail that's under it. That also helps me to make sense, in this case, help me to make sense of that number and recall that well, we've actually got, as I said, a misplaced decimal there. I think we might be a bigger problem even than that. Let's go back to that view. So I'm just going to ignore the probability thing for the moment. So that's one way of using this report. Now the other thing I'm going to do is sort of go a little bit farther along with removing columns that are not key to what we're doing here, and I'm going to focus in on just the dollar forecast. I'm going to take the other ones off. I'm going to go ahead and clone this again to accomplish that. So another clone, and this time I'm going to remove the individual count. I'm going to leave the forecast in. Now the reason that I'm pulling all these other data area fields out is that what I want to do is make good use of my columns. So when there are multiple data items in there, if you add a field into the column area, those data items are all going to repeat for each name that you put, for each item that you have here in the columns. So if I had multiple data So example, I might have left the count of sales plus the dollar amount and moved the sales rep or the manager of the opportunity into the column area. I'm going to go ahead and move the manager in there. Where are we? There we go. There's the manager. So in this case, we have a short list of managers. So if I had shown both the count and the dollar amount, you'd see them repeated once for Lori, once for Nancy, once for Rob, once for Tina, and then once for grand total. And even though we only have 4 potential managers in our company, that would make this a 10-column report, actually 12 if you include the row areas, so a 12-column report instead of just the short one that it is right here. So that's something to bear in mind. Actually, why don't I just go ahead and illustrate that. Let's drop in. I'll put this one in here. Oh, actually, what I really like to use is the records field as my counter. So there's our count. I just dragged it into the data area and dropped it. And as you see, still more columns, but because there's only 4 potential managers, we only get 4 of these sections going across. So that's what that would look like. Again, I want to make this a little bit simpler, so I'm going to remove that one. I just wanted to kind of give you that. And then the next thing that's sort of missing here is we don't have a total on the right-hand side. We don't have a grand total for our rows. That's easy to handle here. We go up here to the to the Design tab under Pivot Table Tools. And note, by the way, if I have a cell selected on the pivot table, I have a pivot table toolbar up here. If I select off of the pivot table, that goes away. I get asked about that a lot from people. Why can't I modify my pivot table? Well, it's because if you don't have a cell selected on the pivot table, then Excel doesn't know that what you're trying to do is modify that object that's on the page. It thinks you're off doing something else. So select a cell on the pivot table, go up here to grand totals, and turn on for both the rows and the columns, and there you go. Now you have a grand total column on the side and another grand total across the bottom for that other dimension. One last thing I'm going to do on the opportunities thing here, and that is I wanted to present this as a sort of pseudo dashboard. In GoldMine, of course, you have the built-in dashboard for opportunities. It's nice, but it is somewhat limited, and if you want it to do something different than what it does, you're probably going to have to pay somebody to program it differently. This way is just a lot easier way to approach it. If I want to have this show up, have this information show up as a chart for me, it's simple enough to choose chart. I've got a whole list of possible ways of doing charts in GoldMine, in Excel. You can do pie charts, you can do column charts, whatever you want to do, and these all are, getting from there to here is pretty immediate. So this report is the actual chart. There's no programming involved. It was really literally one button, and here I have the chart ready to go, and I can do all the formatting that I want to. I often get asked, can I get rid of these fields that are going across the top here? Yes, you can. Hide those from the chart. You can hide other things. You really have a great deal of control in Excel as far as what this chart is going to wind up looking like. And this workbook, this workbook could actually be your new opportunities dashboard. Getting to this is just about as easy as going to the built-in GoldMine dashboard screen, because you can set this up, save the workbook, save it with some unique name, of course, come up here to the Mastermind taskbar and deploy it with the Share Report button, and in effect make this report be just another of the standard reports that just gets launched right from the taskbar. So you literally up here under your sales reports could have, sales dashboard is one of the options here. Click the button and it pops right up. Just about as easy as having it in GoldMine. And of course the other nice feature about the dashboards built into GoldMine is that you can drill through to GoldMine records. Well, with Mastermind you're going to be able to do the same thing, of course, because it's just the same the same concept. Drill through for more information, drill through to the individual. In this case, this is to the contact record, and then that's the opportunity we were on. Okay, so before getting too far along, or any farther along really on the opportunities thing, I want to move on to projects. If you've got questions related to opportunities, because those tend to be, again, by far, as we saw, that's the most used area of GoldMine, of these special areas, go ahead and post any questions that you've got in the question dialogue. We'll see if we can, if we get a lot of those, then we might handle some of them separately or offline. But if we have just a few, I'll try to answer those here before we get done. For now, I'm going to leave that opportunities report, and let's go over and talk about projects. So, and really I want to make sure I have time to get back to cases. So with projects, it's the same sort of concept with projects, except there are somewhat fewer templates built in, and this has everything to do with just there being, are having over the years, fewer requests from users as far as being able to do reports out of there, because fewer users use it. But it's the same sort of concept. All projects is the project level report, sort of analogous to the opportunities level, the generic opportunities level report on the opportunity side. And then each one of these templates relates again to tabs, to the tabs that are inside projects. So again, if it's issues, the project issues report would be would center on actual issues, where if you don't have an issue, you wouldn't show up in that report. But if you do have an issue, you would have the issue level information, the project level, the contact level, the main contact level, and the user-defined contact level information, all associated with it. So in this case, I was going to do a project tasks report as our example here. And so when I choose project tasks, what you see over here in the in the field list is PJ, those are the fields at the project level. PK is the task level information. And again, remember, we're going to have one record per task, or one row per task in the query when this information gets pulled up. So it's the project level information, the task level, then again the linked contact level information, and if you want to go further, you can get some C2 fields, the contact 2 fields. So everything that potentially could need to be rolled up in association with those tasks. And let me just sort of say conceptually, let's suppose you're keeping demographic information on the Contact 2 tab. And the demographic information says, oh, I don't know, what gender the person is that you're talking to. It says male or female in there. If what you wanted to do was a report by task of the or a report of the tasks, but organize them by the gender of the person who was associated with that project. So it's maybe not the best example, but it's simple anyway. Having both of those elements of information available in the report is what makes that possible. And so including them, again, it's important to check them on and include them when you start with, so that you will be able to display them that way. I'll go ahead and hit the Finish button. We'll do a project tasks report here. And the way this is going to come up in our default view here is a listing, again alphabetically, of the projects. So it's alphabetically by project name. Within each one of those, the task reference, which is just the description inside on the tasks tab inside the project, and then within that the task status, where is that task in terms of being completed. From here, the next logical steps all are sort of flow from your own information need. I'll do a couple of examples here, but I think that probably as experienced Mastermind users, you guys are fairly familiar with this sort of thing. But so this is alphabetical by project, as I mentioned. It might make sense to do it by stage. What stage are they in? Closed, or if you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of a stage process, you would see those here in order. Another one that's sort of a favorite one would be the task users. Let's see who the users are who are actually assigned to do these things. and in this case I chose to do it as in columns. Another common thing to do might be to do reports where you actually choose a project at the top, see the full list of tasks that are associated with it, who's going to do them, maybe the actual date that you expect them to be doing that task or starting to do that task. I think you get the message. All of that is easy to sort of display here, and the real meaning of this, or to have this and look at it and have a sense of the meaning of it, is really dependent on your using, how you use projects within your own situation. By the way, if you want any help kind of noodling around with the templates, with Mastermind templates that are built in, together with your own database, that's one of the things that you can call on us for. It's easy to get online with you, across with GoToMeeting and actually go into your projects with you. Okay, so I think that's all I'm going to say regarding projects. I'll take a quick look at the question dialog just to see if anything has come up. Carnegie, are you still on there? Have you been monitoring questions? Okay.
Manny just asked a question. Have you found a good way of combining the notes entries?
Oh, good question. So notes it is certainly possible to turn on notes. So I think, do tasks actually have notes associated with them? I'm trying to remember if they do.
Yeah, there is PJ notes there.
Was PJ notes, and there are task notes as well.
Okay, good.
And so if you want to include tasks, if you want to include notes in the reports, that is one of the options in Mastermind. So if you want to include them, you really just check them on, and they should be brought in. It's important to note, sorry about that, sorry about the pun there, but it's important to include in your thinking the fact that you've got notes at the project level, notes at the contact level, notes at the individual task level. So you really need to know which of those are you talking about. So if you're down on the tasks tab and you've got a task open and you're seeing the notes there, that's this one. If you're in the project and you're actually on the notes tab of the project, not of the not down in the actual task, then that's what this is. These are the notes of the project. And then going a step up, of course, there are notes at the contact level, and notes in history and notes in the pending. All of that can be incorporated. It's a matter of just sort of checking it on and including it.
Is that also for opportunities?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Exactly the same concept too. Well, was that a question?
That it was.
Okay.
He was meaning
yes.
for opportunities, but I thought I'd throw it out there like that.
Yeah. It is for both of them. And in fact, when we get down into the cases here, I'll talk about that a little further, because cases have actually several, I think 4 different notes fields associated with a case for fairly obvious reasons. Okay. Any other questions that are out there right now, Carnegie? Or I'll jump right onto the cases.
I think we're okay right now.
Okay. Let's go on to cases. So cases, as I mentioned, here we're talking about service, customer service typically. That's not the only thing you can use cases for in GoldMine, but that's sort of the main intention behind it. The idea being you want to be able to track specifically service issues that relate to customers that have purchased or at least installed as a demo your product or service, and to be able to track those through all the way to their conclusion from, we've got a complaint at the front end all the way through to a resolution at the end, and all of that is reportable, and reportable not just in terms of a long list, but reportable also in some sort of summarized form, so that, for example, you can tell what are the first most frequent complaint about your product, the second most, the third most, the most common service issue, 1, 2, and 3, that sort of thing. So if you can aggregate, if you've coded it properly, you can aggregate it into information that really helps you to hone both your customer service function as well as your product itself, if you're gathering good data about it. So, and in the cases area here, I'm going to look at what I wanted to do was I'm going to do all cases But just know that there is a template here built into resolved cases so that you can actually, so it's organized by what were the resolutions for the cases that we had out there. So that would be like past cases for the most part that you're looking at there. In my demo database, I've got a fair number of open cases. So this would be an analysis of open cases that I'm going to do here. I'm going to choose all cases just because that's my first good overview of what's in there. So often the report or the view that you need to start with in your database is really just an overview that lets you know, well, what do we have all together, and then after that, what is an appropriate way to summarize it and organize it so that it tells me something I need to know. So what I did was I just ran the all cases report. So this is every case. Now there's only 8 in this little demo database here, so there's not a whole lot, but there's enough here that I think you can sort of get a sense of what the reporting would be if you're using the case module in GoldMine. So the default layout here is by category. So and actually, why don't I do this? As I said before, I wanted to be switching back and forth between these. Within cases, and actually let me do this even, I'm going to drill through. Finding a record that actually has one is always an issue. This ought to be, this is one of the nice things about drill through from Mastermind, because it allows you to actually go right to somebody that's got an example of what you need. So here's a case that's out there. Double-clicked on it to open it up. As I mentioned, cases have a lot of different. They've got a lot of different parts, including several different notes fields. So one of the notes fields is the description of the case. This is your free form place where you can type out a long list of not very good diction there, but that's kind of what I'm after. So you've got you can have a long, infinitely long, theoretically, description, sort of a narrative description of what the case is about. The rest of these labels, by the way, are customizable in GoldMine, so you don't need to have category, type, origin, priority. You can rename these and repurpose them however it is that's useful for you. But there is a fair amount of detailed information that you can actually capture here, and if you are capturing that information, then you use it for the purposes I started to describe here a moment ago, to improve your product, to improve your customer service, to improve whatever the process is that you're tracking on your cases on your cases tab. And that is, potentially really important usage of GoldMine. It could, justify the usage of GoldMine all by itself. So one other thing I was going to point out here is under description, you've got one notes field. There is another whole tab here that's the more the kind of notes that get segmented and time-stamped, similar to the notes at the contact level of GoldMine. There are some of these other, like under tasks. If I put in a task here, we'll see there's also here's a short description of the task, and here's a longer description of the task. So that's another notes field here. There's really quite a few that you might potentially work with here. Just know that if you use that information, doing reporting with it should be fairly easy, because you just have to check it on in the list to include it in your reports. I think I won't really go into that much further. Let's go back and take a look at our case, our sort of standard cases report here. And again, I'll do a couple of samples with this, and then we're going to be pretty much at the end of our time here. Case priority. That's one that of those who I have seen that use the cases, this is one of the best ways to actually have, again, sort of a dashboard presentation of what's going on in GoldMine. So, or excuse me, what's going on in this case, your customer service department as reflected in GoldMine. So if you've got a priority list of here's all of our cases. And by the way, we don't want all the, at the moment I'm looking at all cases in the system. What I really want is just the open ones, because I want to make sure that my A priority cases get handled first and my B priority and C priority. So I'll go up here and I'll choose, where's my, oh, status, okay. So case status group, I want to choose just the open ones. Closed ones I'm less interested in here at the moment. Okay, so when I choose just the open ones, I see I don't actually have any open A cases. That's good. But I've got some B cases that need working on there. And let's make sure that we're not past due on them. So we'll pull in the due date when those cases are supposed to be handled. Well, some of these are way past due. This is a demo database. It's been sitting there for a while. In your case, you'd be able to tell, you know, how many B priority cases do we have that are sitting out there? How many days have they been sitting out there? And, you know, who's assigned to work on it and all the rest of it. You'd be able to really, from here, manage that caseload pretty effectively if you just, you know, organize these fields the way that makes the most sense to you. I'm not going to go into this too much further because, again, everybody who uses cases uses them in a fairly unique way. And for all the same reasons that people who use opportunities do so in a unique way, and projects. But the concept here should be pretty straightforward. This is a really a means of having a management level view of the activity that's out there, but that does give you the ability to go right down to the nitty-gritty detail if you need to. Okay, I'm going to pause here one more time before we come back to our to sort of wrap things up. Carnegie, anything else come up on the questions?
Yes, we have a question. Is there a way to actually view the notes in the Excel spreadsheet? I figured you could show that really quick, how it would show up.
I did not actually include the notes in this report when I created it. Why don't I just go ahead and, I mean, I could do add and add them in again, but why don't I grab them here? Service cases, and in this case, let's take the description notes. Whenever you, and I'll just, since this is kind of a end user training, whenever you choose a notes field to include in a mastermind report, you're going to get this question: how many notes segments do you want? So notes are, as I said, potentially infinitely long, and as you probably know, it's not possible to have an infinite string in a Excel cell. So we have to resolve that issue somehow. And what we do, the way we handle it is we actually let you choose a number of segments of data, each one 253 characters long. The reason for that is 253 is the maximum length of a cell in a pivot table for display. An actual cell on the regular spreadsheet in GoldMine or in Excel can hold up to, depending on your version of Excel, over 10,000 characters, and in the most current version of GoldMine, I think it's 32,000 characters. But at the pivot table level, it's 253. So we're limiting you to that. And in most cases, you know, people don't write novels in here. They write relatively simple notes in here. And so what we're going to do in this case is, by default, we're going to pull in 3 short segments of data from these descriptions. Let's hope we've got some actual data here to use. And I'm going to go ahead and close the cases report that I have open here so that I can just overwrite it. And what I'm showing you here regarding notes is true for all of the notes in GoldMine, any place that you see notes. Most commonly it's used with history notes, with pending, history and pending, but often it will be with the C1 notes as sort of main contact notes and so on. Okay, so the only thing that's different here now is we've actually included description notes in our query. Now, by default, of course, 253 characters is pretty wide. So by default, when I go and drag this field in here, it actually goes off the right-hand side. This is really important. If you use notes, and this is again not just for cases, but anywhere that you use notes in Mastermind reports, you want to make use of your Optimize Columns button. After you drag the notes field in, if you click Optimize Columns, it will detect that you've got notes here. It will wrap them appropriately wrap the field appropriately so that it actually fits in there and gives you, in this case, multiple lines that cover that information. In this demo, this was done really to sort of demonstrate that very functionality. So that's just the first segment of notes. Now, if this note runs on into a second segment, you might do something like this. In this case, it doesn't, but your second segment of notes would show up there after it. Or if you just simply wanted to take all of the notes that are in there and aggregate them together into a single cell on the regular sheet, you can do that when you drill down. So if I drill down on this record here, I'll actually drill down on all 8 of them to kind of illustrate this. It'll ask you, do you want to concatenate and expand the notes column? So that's an option. We could say no here and leave all of our rows as being sort of narrow, one cell width fields and just leave the notes as they are, or we can let it automatically draw them all together and format them in a way that's useful. So this particular row here with Albert Disluver has that longer set of notes in it. So if I go over here to the right, and it will have, if there are multiple notes fields, as we had actually 3 of them, it will aggregate all 3 of them into the same, or if there are 10, it'll do 10. It'll aggregate them all into one cell like this, right up to the maximum length, or the maximum size that Excel will accommodate for displaying that information. By the way, the notes doesn't have to be all the way on the right here. It's just happened to be the last one that I chose when I created this report. If I wanted to have the notes farther over to the left, this will sort of illustrate for you a couple things. One is, in this table, as long as I do it right, I grab the, okay, so I grab that cell. I'm going to move it over here to the farther up to the front. Put my notes. Did I lose it again? No, I didn't. Okay. So I moved the notes to the 3rd position in here. Now, whoops, one of the things that I can do here is sort the columns. As you can see, after I've moved it over here, when I go to the sort dialog here in Mastermind, I'm able to see a list of the fields as they show up here. Contact company notes is already in that order. Now, if I hit the apply button, if I just say done, then I'm done with this. Or I can, and I can use this dialog actually to move one column at a time, move a selected column, one column at a time, left or right. And if I hit done, then I would just be finished with it. Or if I hit apply, that will actually apply this change to all future drill downs. So now if I go back and I drill down here again, what we'll see is the notes are now in the 3rd position from left to right and concatenated and formatted and just laid out in the way that's that's most useful to present that. So I wanted to kind of squeeze that in there at the end there because a lot of people are sort of unfamiliar with that somewhat new, it's about a year and a half old actually already, that capability to reorganize the cells on the back end, including the notes, and have them appear just in whatever order you want. That all, just to remind you, that's in the Mastermind drill down tab, the drill down menu under sort columns. Okay, we're at the end of our hour. If anything else has come up, Carnegie, let me just give it one more question here. Is there anything else there that we want to cover?
There was one more question. Is there a way to launch a Mastermind report when GoldMine is started?
To launch a Mastermind report, are we talking about to actually, so when you launch GoldMine, it just automatically goes right out and launches a Mastermind report as well?
Yes.
I think that's
what I think.
Well, there isn't a way to do that, I don't think, but you are one button away from doing it. In other words, you can always have that Mastermind report that you want to have open just be up here on a menu, so they can, well, okay, so there would be two clicks, because one would be to open up the menu and the second would be to choose it. And I'm assuming we're talking about something like a dashboard report. So rather than with GoldMine opening up and going right to the dashboards tab, it could go up here, or you would have to, I guess, have to go up here and click to launch that report automatically. If I didn't answer that question, go ahead and.
It sounds like you did. She thinks she would need a macro to do it, and yes, it was for a dashboard.
Okay. I'm not. I don't know if you can run something from the taskbar with a macro. Sue, maybe you know better than I do if that's possible. If you can, then great. I think the macros pretty much have to work with menu items. I'm not sure they will work with these items, taskbar items. But if you do know, go ahead and put it in the question thing, and let's see if that's if we got an answer for that. Okay, she'll try it out for us. All right, so Sue, let us know. Let's see, what else have we got?
Ask, is the concatenation of notes not
on version 7? No, it absolutely is. It's been in there for a number of, actually a number of versions of Mastermind. It probably goes back to version 5 or 6, or 5, I think. If that's not working for you or something about it isn't right for you, let us know. But what's new with version 7, I think, was we actually, it used to be that every time you drill down that it would just automatically concatenate the notes. And in some cases people didn't like that because they really, when you're drilling down, you don't necessarily want to see all the notes. You might be drilling down for some other purpose, and so you don't want the notes distorting the rows. So that's why we put the choice in there for you with version 7. But the actual concatenation actually has always been in there, I think, as long as we've been doing notes. Okay, with that, I'm going to thank you all very much for spending this hour with me. If you have additional questions, please feel free. Send us an email with whatever question follow-on question that you've got, or anything else that you're interested in our reporting. I see something on there that yes, this saved this session, like all of them, is saved and recorded and will be made available to you within about a day or so. And it's also, all of our recordings are available on our website. And Carnegie, correct me if I'm wrong, don't we've got them on, many of them on YouTube as well?
We do.
Okay, so you can search them on YouTube. Just search the word Mastermind and any other keyword that relates to the thing that you're interested in. You should be able to find a lot of these topics already on YouTube. Send us your requests. Please let us know what you would like to have. Now, I know people need to drop off and go to other things. I want to go back and just give you this one last offer, because we always do this every month. We give away our free 1-hour consultation, and the lovely Carnegie will bring that up here in just a moment, but I want to get I want to get this slide up there. All right, why can't I get, oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do this quick drawing. This is a free 1-hour consultation with us on the topic of your choice, using Mastermind to complete or to update data, or to create a report for you, do a little dashboard. You name what you would like to do, and typically that hour is with me. It's not always. You might work with our other technicians on this, but you've got my name there and my direct extension and my email address. Carnegie's going to do the drawing here. Are you ready to go, Carnegie?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, so let's spin the wheel and see what we get.
Well, it's paper. Here we go.
Okay, let's grab the paper. Let's grab the slip.
We are Sue Thomas.
Sue Thomas is our big winner.
Sue Thomas, congratulations.
Okay, well, Sue, I'll look forward to working with you for an hour, and let's see what we can do to enhance even further what you're doing with Mastermind. Okay, thank you all very much for spending the time with us and holding out with us right till the end, and we'll see you next month.